Okay, what we're going to look at here is some factorising. So this will be with single brackets, and these questions here won't be too dissimilar to what you've seen at GCSE. So pause the question, have a go at the 4, and then the solutions will follow. Okay, so here come the answers. I'm not going to go through these in any detail because this is GCSE. If you do have any issues with this, then you need to come and see me. Okay, so they're getting a bit harder now. This is factorising with fractional coefficients. So we've no longer just got integer coefficients. So pause the video and see if you can factorise these. The hint would be you need to take the smallest coefficient outside, so you need to take the smallest fraction. So identify that first, and then anything else that's common to each term, and then carry on with the factorising process. Okay, so as I mentioned, you're going to take out the smallest fraction. So in the first one, we've got a half n, and we've got 6. So a half goes outside, and now you've got to be careful because we want to create 6. So what do I need to times a half by to get 6? And it would have been 12. For the second one, we've got a half n and 3 over 2n. So the smallest fraction there is a half. They both share an n. So a half n sits on the outside. And then we need to think, what do we need to times that half n by to get the original terms? So it would be 1. And then to get 3 over 2n squared, we would need 3n. So if you're unsure of where that's come from, expand the bracket on the right hand side and check that you get back to the original. The third one, the smallest fraction, is a quarter, so that sits outside, and then they both share an n squared. The first term, you'd have to times a quarter n squared by n to get a quarter n cubed. For the second term, the n squared I've got already. How do I make a half? Well, the half would be 2 quarters, so you would have to times a quarter n squared by 2. Alright, the third one we do it in exactly the same way. We've just got 3 terms now. So the 1/6 being the smallest fraction would go on the outside. They all share an n. So the first term is quite straightforward. We just have an n cubed. Now how am I going to make a single n? Well, 1/6 n times 6 would give me n. And 3 lots of 1/6 would give me the half for the final term. So the powers of n bit is quite straightforward, but it's the fraction bit that you really need to focus on and practice. Right, we're going to take this one step further, and these expressions that we're going to factorise, we will arrive at these when we introduce our series formula in the next unit for FP1. So don't worry where they've come from, but this way of factorising will be really important. So these are going to get more complex. So if you look at the first one, we're going to do it in the same way. What's common to both? So they both have a half. Half's the smallest fraction, so you take that outside. They also share an n. So then you'd have to think, what do I times a half n by to get half n, n plus 1? And what do I times a half n by to get 3 over 2, n squared? So same again now. There's 3 questions. Pause the video, have a go, and then the answers will follow. So as mentioned earlier with that first one, a half is the smallest fraction and they both share an n. So you can put a half n on the outside. And then I'm going to use square brackets to differentiate between the rounded ones. So a half n times n plus 1 would give me the first term. And I'd have to times that half n by 3n to get the second term. Now if you look inside the square brackets, we can do a bit of simplifying here. You can see that actually in that square bracket I've now got 4n plus 1. So whenever we can neaten up what we've got inside that square bracket, we need to do that. Right, for the second one, the smallest fraction is a quarter. They both share an n, and they both share an n plus 1 in a bracket. So that can sit outside. We then need to think about what's missing. So, if we've got a quarter n bracket n plus 1 close bracket outside, then what are we going to put in our big square brackets? Well, as you can see, from the first term, what's missing is I need to make an n squared, so I need another n. And I've also got a whole bracket 2n plus 1, which is missing. For the second term, I've got the n plus 1, but I've got a quarter, and I want one whole. So to make that become a whole, I'd have to have 4 lots of it. Again, look what you've got in the square bracket. So I can expand my rounded bracket now to get 2n squared plus n plus 4. Now in this case, that quadratic doesn't actually factorise, but if it did, then that would be another step that you could take. Okay, so we've got 3 terms on the bottom step. So we're looking for the smallest fraction. So the smallest fraction is 1/6. They all have a single n, and they all have an n plus 1 in a bracket. So that would go outside. We'd put in our square bracket, and we'd think about what I have to times that thing on the outside by to get each of the 3 terms. So for the first term, I want a half. What do I times 6 by to get a half? Well, it would be 3. The n and the n plus 1 are already outside my bracket, so that completes the first term. The second term, I want 2 as my coefficient, and I've got a 6th outside, so I need 12 lots of 1/6, and I'm missing another n to make my n squared. The n plus 1 is already outside. For the final term, it's a minus. My 6th n plus 1 is already there, so then I just need my 2n plus 1 in the bracket. Again, neatening up what you've got inside, you can see you have 10n plus 2. Alright, if there's been any bits of this video that you've not been clear on, then you must watch it again. So you're going to complete a worksheet now that's going to have some of the similar type of questions building up as it did in the video. So use the video if you're stuck on them, or come and see me.